Training camp coverage brought to you by Consumer Tire. Breaking down all of the latest from today's practice. Here's Daryl Ryder and Coach Lance Reisland.
Day 19 of Browns training camp has come and gone. It's Daryl Ryder, Spencer German joining you here on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. We, of course, are presented to you by Consumer Tire. Okay, so Spencer, let's talk about some housekeeping right out of the gate. Spencer Fano, Malik Collins did not participate in the team portion of practice, but they did practice, albeit limited.
Yeah, obviously two important pieces. It's good to see Malik back out there. He talked a little bit before practice just about his recovery timeline, how a lot's changed since that time frame. No more Myles Garrett. He talked about Jared Verse, and it sounded like him and Jared were jawing a little bit at practice today, so that was interesting. But yeah, certainly good to see Malik back out there and get this defense kind of getting healthy in some areas, especially an area of need like that where they don't have as much depth. And it doesn't seem like it's anything serious for Spencer. I mean, like, he's been doing individual stuff. I saw him working with his brother after practice on Monday. Right. It seems more precautionary, just trying not to get anybody hurt. I don't think there's anything necessarily to worry about there.
Yeah, Quinshin Judkins was back in team drills today, and it looked like he never left.
Yeah, he was great as usual. Looked like he was his normal self. It felt like last week their whole situation with him was also kind of precautionary. They just didn't want to risk anything. Didn't want to risk him getting hurt in the joint practices. They know how valuable he's going to be to this team. And yeah, I know there's a few others that also kind of were back at practice today, but certainly those guys I think topped the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaiah Bond did not practice today. Parker Brailsford, who was expected to compete for the starting center job with Elgton Jenkins, out with a wrist-hand injury. He was back at practice today, albeit on a limited basis. I don't know. I kind of feel like there just isn't enough time for him to run from behind and take that starting job, although I do feel like, or I should say I felt like, Spencer, going into camp, like that was the best case scenario for the Browns, is that Parker would have won that starting center job so Jenkins could play his natural position, right guard, but it looks like Jenkins is going to be the starting center.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know even Tom Monken mentioned at the owners' meetings this year that he would have preferred for Elgton Jenkins to be in one of the guard spots, but that he can still play center. And ultimately, it's about finding the best five. And I don't know at this stage, to that end, if they can argue that Parker Brailsford is one of the best five right now. He might be at some point, but obviously because he's been out, it's hard to say that, and they got to start sort of finalizing things here. I know they still have a couple weeks until the regular season, and the regular season starts a little later than usual this year, but they definitely have to sort of, make sure that they put the best five out there, and so I think right now it's probably an uphill climb for Parker Brailsford. I would assume at this stage, Daryl, he's going to make the team. I don't think that's so much an issue, especially because I don't think there's a ton of depth at the offensive line, and it's a guy they just recently drafted, so I think he's going to make the team. I just don't know if he's quite ready just yet to assume the starting role at the center spot like some had hoped.
Fingers crossed for cornerback Michael Coates, who was helped off the field midway through practice, unable to put any type of pressure on his right leg as he was helped off the field. So again, fingers crossed that he's okay. Did not look great. I guess the good news there, he wasn't carted off the field. But a position in which the Browns could ill afford any type of injury, that cornerback spot, or just in the secondary in general. So real tough to see Coates go down in the middle of practice.
Yeah, it was super unfortunate, man. I feel for him a ton because he was having a really good camp. Like you mentioned, not a lot of depth at the cornerback spots, and he was one guy that had kind of stood out more than anything and looked like he was going to – I think he was a lot to make this team. Without question. It was just a matter of, who else was going to be on the depth chart around him. So to see him leave the field that way was unfortunate. Like you said, maybe the one silver lining is that he did not have to be carted off, and they were on the far field today. Yeah. So it was a long walk back to the facility, which, maybe I don't think they would have done that if they could have obviously put him on the cart. So we'll see. Fingers crossed for sure, because you never want to see anything happen like that, especially somebody like Coates, who was having like one of the feel-good stories of camp as a undrafted rookie who came in and seemed like he had kind of carved out a role for himself. So it's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah, and also, too, right after Todd Monken had been telling us in recent days how they haven't lost anyone of significance, then they lose Alex Wright to the ruptured Achilles injury. And now we certainly don't want to speculate on what's wrong with Coates. But again, it is noticeable when a guy can't put any pressure on a leg. So again, our best wishes to him, and hopefully he's able to come out of this thing clean. Okay, so workman-like type of a practice today for the Browns is, minimal preparation for Thursday, and that was to be expected. Todd Monken told us before practice, not a lot of prep going into Thursday's game. No starters are going to play for either team. Todd Monken had that conversation with Mike Vrabel. They have the gentleman's agreement there. Also interesting, though, Shedeur Sanders is not going to play Thursday night. Dillon Gabriel will start the game, probably play the first half, and then Taylon Green, the sixth-round draft pick, who's gotten minimal snaps here during training camp, he'll play the second half. When we have seen him get reps of consequence in the 11-on-11, he's acquitted himself pretty well for a guy that just really hasn't got much of a look.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. It's an interesting spot for a lot of these guys at this stage, but the quarterback position in particular. I think it was good that Todd was kind of asked the question about, hey, why won't Shedeur play in this game, even though he's the backup? And Todd basically said it has more to do with just wanting to see more from Dillon in a game setting, see more from Taylon in a game setting. He said he didn't really think it was fair to judge Dillon off of Saturday's performance, where some things didn't go his way, and it was him going against or with certain guys down the roster.
KT Leviston couldn't get the snap count right.
Right. So they had the 3 false starts in a row or whatever, 3 false starts in like 4 plays, whatever it was. So I think he wants to sort of get a better feel for that. And honestly, I know it's Thursday night isn't going to be the star-studded quarterback competition that we've been talking about most of camp. But as we think about the future of that position and who the next backup's going to be, I do think there's sort of a battle going on here of is Dillon for sure the third-string quarterback, or could they look to shop him before cutdown day on Sunday and then lean into Taylon Green, or could Taylon Green become a guy that they cut and try to get to the practice squad? So there is kind of something to see there from those two guys in terms of trying to figure out where they fit into the picture of the 53-man roster. Last year they technically tried to keep 4, or maybe it was 2 years ago they kept 4 and then traded 1 or whatever it was. So Andrew Berry tends to be sort of, he finagles his way around the quarterback position this time of year when we get to cutdown day. So we'll see what all that looks like. But yeah, practice was more geared towards, as Todd let us know, focusing on getting more reps for Deshaun with the 1s, getting more reps for Shedeur with the 2s, and kind of running it like it'd be a normal week of practice leading into a game.
Yeah, and that's the old call his bluff type of move, and I think that's what's going to happen again this year. I think Barry's going to have to keep all 4 on the initial roster before he's able to move one of them, because I just think NFL GMs around the league are just going to say to Andrew, you're going to cut the kid anyway, and we'll just get him off the waiver wire. So, and then Barry will say, well, watch this. And then I'm going to keep him.
Watch this trick.
Yeah, watch this. I'm going to go ahead and keep him.
Joke's on you.
Well, again, he's done it before, and I think he's going to do it again. And I know that the organization certainly thinks highly of Taylon Green, even though he's young and raw right now, but you do see the physical toolkit there, and it's hard not to want to do similar to what you're doing with Shedeur Sanders and wanting to develop that and see if there's a little something there. I think Dillon Gabriel is what he is. I stand by everything I've said about him from a football standpoint. He's a great kid. He's just not a good quarterback. And I don't know how many times we need to see it before people start to recognize it for what it is, including the Cleveland Browns. So I don't think anyone's going to be rushing to the waiver wire to claim Dillon Gabriel, okay? And so I think that's part of it. I want to talk about these designed runs that we're starting to see from Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he was named the starter yesterday. That was a big hullabaloo. A lot of fans are upset about it, understandably so. Signs being placed around the country and down at the stadium. The switchboard here in Berea getting blown up. You got people yelling out of their cars as they're driving by the facility and whatnot. But let's just set all that aside and kind of stick to the football aspect of all this here, Spencer. I got to be honest with you, I'm a little concerned about the design runs for Deshaun. I don't know that's the smartest thing to do. Look, he's healthy. He is physically in one piece and capable of being on a field. I don't think he's a very good quarterback anymore, but he's capable of at least being out there. And I think that doing some of these design runs, you're setting this guy to get blown up. And I don't think that's very good for him. Your thoughts when you're seeing him run, and it looks good in practice. He's not live, so he's not in danger of getting hit and blown up. So I just think it's a different environment, and I don't like them even testing the notion of doing these runs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's always a lot of debate about like mobile quarterbacks and are they more injury prone than non-mobile quarterbacks, and I think the evidence kind of says like mobile quarterbacks are less injury prone because they can avoid hits more and they can kind of get out from sacks and things like that. So I think there's some truth to that. I understand what you're saying though, like the design runs in particular being something that exposes him more to more hits and potentially injury. I would just say though, Daryl, like he's like you said, he's fully healthy, and if you're starting Deshaun Watson, you would be doing yourself a disservice as the head coach of this football team to not lean on that part of his game. You just would. And honestly, I tend to agree with you. Like, I don't know that he's a good quarterback anymore. I don't necessarily see that. So if the one thing he still has in his game is the ability to escape pressure, make plays kind of happen, extend them, and then do some of these design runs where he's kind of able to make something happen or break free and make some plays downfield with his legs, like that's maybe the one bonus that you have in him being part of this offense. So I don't think anybody can worry about that at this point. The Browns know this is the last year of his contract. They got to see if there's anything salvageable here if they're starting him. Again, they don't have to start him, but they are starting him. So if he's starting, you might as well see what you have and what you can do, and you might as well, let him off the leash a little bit. You're not going to restrict him in terms of what he can do. And if you're Deshaun Watson, like, you got to show that you can still do that if you have any hope of playing in the NFL beyond this season and finding a job, whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else. So I don't have a problem with it as much, even though I do understand what you're saying. Quarterback's been injury prone. Do you really want him exposed to more of that? I think that just kind of comes with the territory, though, of Deshaun Watson being the starting quarterback for this team.
Yeah, good points all around there. Before we get to some special team stuff here, late in practice had a little bit of a minor dust-up. Trey Avery, blew up Cole Wilson. Wilson was down for a couple of seconds. Avery scooped up the loose football, ran down. A couple offensive players took exception to the
it was like the whole. It felt like most of the offensive sideline and most of the defensive sideline all kind of converged around each other.
I was ready to run on the practice field at that point just to see what the hell was going on the far end of the field. But that's just kind of the spirit of training camp. And afterwards, you saw guys walking on the field joking about it. And so I guess all's well that ends well there. All right, let's talk some special teams here. Denzel Boston returning punts. I don't know that I like that idea.
Yeah, we've been seeing him back there throughout camp. That's still one of the big questions that we have yet to learn, get an answer to, right? Is like, how often is Casey Concepcion going to be back there, knowing he's going to be a primary guy in the offense? Denzel Boston might be not quite as the fact that Denzel Boston played this past week, I thought kind of told us he's going to be involved in the first team offense a lot, but he's not going to be first out there. I think it probably is more like Casey, Judy, and Isaiah Bond, assuming he's back and healthy after he's in the protocol right now. So I'm kind of curious, will it be more of him? Will it be more of the other? Right. We still have some mystery as to who maybe wide receiver 6 on this team is going to be, assuming they keep 6, because if that's like Malachi Corley, he can return punts. If that's Gage Larvadan, he can return punts. So it's going to be interesting to see how they sort through that. I don't know that we have the full picture yet of how often certain guys will be back there, but they've kind of made it a priority to get him some reps back there.
Yeah, and I just think that I guess my concern is he's the only big-bodied wide receiver they have, and I don't like the idea of them putting him back there just in case something should happen to him. Now you lose that out of your offensive game.
Do you worry about it with KC?
No, I don't, because KC he has the ability to work his way out of trouble.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
And I'm not saying that Denzel Boston doesn't have that capability. I guess maybe I'm just a little more protective of him than KC. KC plays
little
with no
Cedric
fear.
Tillman syndrome going on here because Ced's gotten hurt so many times over the last few years. You want to keep your big body receiver safe?
I think I got a little unresolved trauma there. Perfect day for Andre Schmidt, kicking footballs through the uprights. Even kicked one over the 20-foot fence into somebody's backyard, so that was good to see. But the punters, I think Thursday night's a big night for the punters. I don't know necessarily that it is written in stone that Corey Bojorquez is going to be the punter because Wes Paul and Nick Constantino, they're both boomer punters. Everybody is just kicking the life out of the football right now, which is great to see. that is, I think, one of the more underrated competitions going on right now.
Yeah, no one's really talking about it, but it'll be interesting to see after Thursday if Corey Bojorquez and Byron Storer has said throughout camp that it is Corey's job to lose. So I think he still is the front runner at this point. But I think all the punters have had some really booming kicks throughout this camp. So there might be a tough decision coming this weekend when they have to decide what they're going to do. And it might come down to money too. We always know, I don't know the exact details off the top of my head of Corey's contract, but I know he's making at least in the million range, and one of these other guys is probably making a couple $100,000. If it's a way to save some money on the cap, you might just do that. So we'll see. And also, I want to say this very quiet. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want anybody to hear me. I'm going to say it very quietly.
All right, hang on. Okay, go ahead.
Andre Schmidt has had a really good camp. I don't want to jinx him. I'm just saying he's had a really good camp. Just saying.
Yeah, he's taking a big risk putting that out in the ether like that. But you know what? Respect. I like it. All right. We'll be back here. Well, not here on Wednesday because we are not here. Preseason game number 3, Thursday night at Huntington Bank Field against the New England Patriots. Bring a roster with you. You're going to need it. And the Browns will practice on Saturday. Cut down day is Sunday at 6 p.m. That's a little different now. 6 p.m. Used to be around 4 p.m. Eastern time. Now it's been pushed back to 6 p.m. That's when you get your initial 53, not the final 53. By the way, one of my big pet peeves in our business, here's the final 53-man roster. Listen, there's absolutely nothing final about that 53-man roster. It's the initial 53. Well, it doesn't even survive 24 hours.
And because the Browns are playing on Thursday, I would imagine we might get some of this information on Friday, even maybe Saturday when we're out here at practice, that they're letting certain guys go, and then they'll make some of those final tougher decisions come Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be like, hey, this guy's not practicing. He's not on the team anymore. It is going to be a tough weekend, though, and this is the toughest part for Andrew Berry, his staff, Todd Monken, his staff. Nobody enjoys this weekend. There are guys that have put a lot of blood, sweat, tears, effort into this training camp that, quite frankly, their football dreams will come to an end here in Berea, or their career will be paused and they have to hope they get picked up on the waiver wire or they end up somewhere else. Or, fingers crossed, they do end up on the Browns practice squad. So once we get through Thursday's preseason game, a very tough weekend, certainly not just here in Cleveland, but across the National Football League, as again, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and not find themselves on the 53-man rosters. Okay, that's going to do it here for day 19 out in Berea. Daryl Ryder, Spencer German signing off. Again, as always, we're presented to you by Consumer Tire. I want to take a moment to thank you for watching here on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a comment. Also available on the YouTube channel here, Todd Monken's press conference from today. Also, Lance Reisland and I caught up with defensive coordinator Mike Rutenberg yesterday. Check that out here on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel as well.